Why did you land on the family board meeting?
We called it the family board meeting because I started to call these board meetings because, I was a surfer and the joke was, oh, I'm going to a board meeting. You go surfing with your friends or surfing with your family. So the word board meeting was, as an entrepreneur, well, every quarter, if you had a board meeting with your team, why would you do it? It'd be to reflect on the last 90 days, reunite, and look ahead to the next 90 days. I said, well, I can do those with my kids. Kind of the surfing analogy, the use of them for business effectiveness. So I kind of like to play on words. And then actually, the famous author, Ryan Holiday, he approached me. He had seen me do a talk, and I was just I had done talks on it, but not written the book. And he said, hey, I like what you're doing. I think you should name it the family board meeting, because this is about family. So it was actually Ryan Holiday, to his credit, that gave me the idea of naming it the family board meeting, because it was just a simple play on words. And I call it the most important meeting of your life. And so that's kind of the organic way that it came about.
Yeah, I love it. And no issues with non-entrepreneurial families adopting that language?
Zero. Because what I always say, and if you've seen me on different interviews or that, the first few years, Lee, people would almost come up to me with a guilt like, hey, we don't call them board meetings. We call them daddy-daughter dates and father-son dates. And I'm like, awesome. I don't care what you call it, as long as you use the principles, put it on the calendar and you do it. So it's there's no adoption thing, because as you'll see, the main principles I just discussed: one-on-one time, intermittent tech fasting, say the unspoken, let them plan the day. There's not much heavy business, lingo to that. It's more just overlapping principles in all sorts of lifestyles.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not super structured. Let it happen. Let it run out. So
yeah, you try to overstructure 4 hours with a 7-year-old, you kill the magic. You let them plan it, and that's one of the funnest things where parents say to me, or even a lot of grandparents now, well, we wanted to understand their gifts and talents. I said, you want to understand their gifts and talents? Let them plan the day. See what they start to gravitate to. They're building Legos. They might really have this just mechanical inclination that they just love this. My son, well, gosh, he's picking fishing, 2 out of 4 board meetings a year. I got to watch this. It's the gifts and talents, Lee, start to uncover themselves when you let them plan the day and go all in. And it's pretty cool to let that unfold.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I get to work with the communities of families in person. I've got 2 that I run here in Phoenix, and they're mostly lower income communities. But when the kids are in the room with the parents, and we're just talking about different things like traits they want to have when they become an adult, and capabilities, finding their value creation superpowers, et cetera. But when the kids start talking, one last weekend said, "Well, I really like solving problems," and so we're just talking about, like, well, how can we leverage
That's awesome.
these things? What are they? That's great. What kind of problems do you like to solve? And he always comes in. I've seen him twice now, both times, with 2 different really complicated next level Rubik's cubes. Like, that's so cool. And then we started a conversation around, well, do you think that's valuable for businesses or organizations to have people that can really solve problems? And I just love starting those conversations, but they get to say it. So I guess I'm just affirming what you're saying. This is what I find. We're on this journey with them. They're amazing people.
Yep.
And it's so fun to watch.
Yeah. I love my wife has helped start and run a few different Montessori and Waldorf schools. And the philosophy of that, which I always like, I mean, I was the ADD kid, Lee, who just got in trouble at school. School was not good to me. And it was kind of like, sit down and follow these directions. Right. And I wasn't very good at that. And the Montessori and Waldorf approach that we've seen, it's not that sit down and follow me, this teacher authoritarian in the front. It was, okay, follow the child. And I love that difference of follow the child, let them. And I've seen the results from our kids, I think, going from a different philosophy than I did, not beating up, just traditional education was not for me. But we can take that in at home instead of saying, all right, be quiet. This is what we're going to do. follow the child. Let them go into the things like you did with your grandnephew with the Legos. It seems small or even trivial, but it's not. It's actually a huge, huge building block for them figuring out who they are, what they're good at, and where can they move within one specialized skill. That's what I think one of the things that we've had a lot of success with, where kids get overwhelmed. What do I need to learn? What do I have to learn? And say, well, what are you interested in? And then just remember, you really only have to bring to the world one specialized skill at a time to really be successful, And so, and that can change. But for me, going into real estate years ago, I figured out how to find an old house, fix it up, rent it or sell it. And that took me from near poverty to abundance. That one sentence, I said, guys, this one sentence, how to find a house, how to fix it up, and I could rent it or sell it. That's it. That was my whole thing for many a years. Still, now I build houses and either rent them or sell them. But it really hasn't changed. And it's like that one sentence, all of a sudden, yeah, it had other skills underneath it, like problem solving and sales and communication. But it's that one skill. And that branched me into be able to write family books and do family retreats and that. But I only had to develop one specialized skill to take root and then grow off of that. And it sounds like you did the same thing in a lot of your businesses.
Yeah. Well, you have to start with something. And, I don't count it as one of my 8 businesses, but in the first half of the 80s, I'm probably quite a bit older than you, but I spent, some of those years, 300 nights playing concerts and clubs and all that, in my rock band.
Wow.
And then during the day, to make a little bit of extra money, I took a job as an electroplating operator. And then I quickly became, after a couple of years, the foreman. I had 25 people on the floor. We're just doing this specialized kind of brush plating, as electroplating by hand. And so here's that one thing. And then I had an opportunity to buy the company for, just by assuming it's debt, no cash.
Wow.
600 grand in 93. Crazy, right? And then turn that into, hey, let's get a machine, and then let's get this and let's get that. So moved 9 times for growth, ended up in over 300,000 square feet when I sold it in 2016, 500 employees. And it was just starting with one thing and just keep adding to it. And that's something I really impress on with the kids. It's like you have to start.
Yes.
And then you can leverage it for the next step. And there's going to be some struggle to get that capability. It will build self-esteem. Don't stop. Use it to create value. But then you can accrete things onto it. You can add to it that can, like when I was playing in a rock band in the early 80s, I graduated high school in 1980. No way could I have seen having this $100 million aerospace business, traveling to 30 plus countries doing business. Yep. No way. But you have to start. And a lot of kids today, I'm curious what you're seeing. It's almost like they don't want to earn it. They just want to be that thing, or they're nervous to get started. And I always say, the better thing to say is probably, don't you want to earn that and have fun on the journey to get there? What are your thoughts?
Oh, 100%. And so I've always said, that which we obtain too easily, we never really appreciate. So it's actually a gift. And I know that some children, like my oldest son, has said, you made us earn certain things, and we kind of want them handed to us. And we're so glad now you didn't do that. Now that's coming from a 20 and 22-year-old. 15-year-old might say something different, but it really is a gift to be able to prove yourself to yourself that you can problem solve, that you can go deep and become a slow learning expert in one area like you did. You were sounding like a proficient and good musician, but electrical wasn't necessarily your thing. But you just continued to say, how could I solve more problems? I remember I saw an Elon Musk interview where he said, how do you decide what to invest in or who to hire as key people? He says, when they can really dissect a problem, and really it's not just, okay, name a problem that you had to solve, and they go into it. They can go into the intricacies and just the little pieces and all the things, and you can tell they just really got into it. It reminds me of that book, if you ever read it, The Surrender Experiment. Sounds like that's what you did. You surrendered and said, I'm going to be really into this. And then all of a sudden, these things started to blossom around you. And so for kids, I say, give yourself the same chance to go really deep into one area and keep just going deeper into that thing. Deepen or widen, always deepen. And that's my problem with school. You don't have to know everything. You need to know one thing really well. Generalize or specialize. And I think if you were starting, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, if you were starting 7 other businesses right then with your electrical business at that time, that electrical business would have failed. But you were so committed to saying, how do I solve the problems? How do I learn this? And people go, well, Lee wasn't passionate about electronics. Probably not, but you were passionate about figuring out problems and the people that you worked with and still being able to do your music and being able to produce something that actually made a difference. And I think that's where kids get confused. Well, I have to be completely passionate about it. No, you can be passionate about the things around it or within it.